So for anybody out there who's trying to get to 1 Bitcoin right now, I think this is what we need to look at in terms of how difficult it can be, especially at these prices. And I'm not even going to factor in like the increase in the price over the next decade. This is just going to be if the price of Bitcoin stayed at $110,000 US for the next X amount of years. If it stayed at this price, how long would it take the average person to be able to afford one whole Bitcoin? So let's bring this up. This was an old spreadsheet that I did. We're going to update it here a little bit, but this is kind of what it looks like. So you got somebody's average salary here is about 70K, which I think is actually on the high end right now. So that's what you're taking in. That's what you're getting paid every couple of weeks. You got your tax, $20,000 approximately off there between federal, provincial, state, maybe about $20,000 in taxes. House, I did about $2,000, which is also very low, I think, for a lot of people, whether you're renting or paying a mortgage. It's probably a little bit higher than that, but we'll go 24,000 for simplicity here. Car, fuel, and insurance. I took about $800 per month for this, for a total of $9,600. Food, $300 a month. I don't know how many people are actually able to do this. I'm not. We're not here. Our food bill, these bills are much higher than this. And then property taxes is also very low. I think even out here, our property tax is higher than this. Utilities is about $300 a month, which is insane that it's that high, but it is. Might even be a deal here. So after 1 year, basically, the average person is going to have a disposable income of about $5,200 if they're lucky. That's pretty much best case. And that doesn't include any other extracurricular activities there, like a vacation, an Amazon purchase, nothing. This is just your bare bones life. And you're taking home $5,200 per year. It's so sad. But anyways, that's the reality right now. So at the time, Bitcoin price was 111,000 Canadian. And it would have taken somebody 21 years to afford 1 Bitcoin. 21 years of working to get to 1 Bitcoin. Again, assuming that the price will stay this long for 21 years. So let's bump this up. Let's go to, it is 144 today here in Canada. So in the last couple months, we've added 6 years to somebody trying to save to get to 1 Bitcoin. So this is what I want. This is how I want people to think about this. Like, that's very discouraging, of course. It is. But the one thing I would say here is, like, this is just the salary. There's a lot of people out there who have other assets in their life. They have their pension, retirement, savings account. Maybe they're paying way too much for their vehicle that they could downsize. People can restructure their lives here if they actually want to take this seriously. So this is just if you're saving. You're going to work, you're saving for Bitcoin. It's going to take you 27 years to get to 1 Bitcoin. So I want you to understand how difficult that is for the average person. But I also want you to understand whatever Bitcoin you have, how valuable it's going to be worth and how valuable it is. Because if you think about it, who's going to be able to do this? Not a whole lot of people. And so we still have the ability now to make some decisions, make some sacrifices in our life, and maybe sell some other investments to help push this thing ahead faster. So here's how I want you to think about this. We've been talking about UTXOs and kind of like the ideal setup for UTXOs in terms of like how much Bitcoin you should hold in each. And a UTXO is basically just a chunk of Bitcoin. And you could have like 10 UTXOs in your wallet. The balance of the wallet will be the sum of all your UTXOs. And this has to do with like fees in the future. This has to do with privacy in terms of sending and receiving Bitcoin. So I want you to think about this. And I was actually blown away when I thought about this in this sense. So for somebody who's trying to get to 1 Bitcoin, I think if you look at it this way, it changes everything. So let's say that you have a UTXO for 14 million sats. So this is the first, or we'll call it the wallet / UTXO. So I think most people in this community here will have that or close to that already. So 14 million sats. All right, so that's number one. So then once you got that done, you move on to number 2. Wallet UTXO. We're going to try 13 million this time though. Let me format this a little bit better here so I don't have to do this every time. So you got 2 wallets right now, 2 UTXOs, 14 million and 13 million. And if we keep going down here, you're going to see what happens as we do this. So the next one, you try to get to 12 million and then 11 million and then 10, 9, 8, 7. And as we keep going here, you're going to see what happens. All the way down to 1 million sat UTXO. And what's the sum of these? $105 million sats, also known as 1.05 Bitcoin. Doesn't that seem a lot more achievable than trying to get to 1 Bitcoin if you just break it down in chunks? So you start with 14 million, that's your first UTXO, and then you just stack them. 13 million, 12 million. It's just going to get easier. It's going to get harder to buy Bitcoin, but you're going to need less to hit your next goal, essentially. So not only are you going to have 1 Bitcoin at the end of this, but you're going to have almost a perfectly structured wallet in terms of UTXO sizes, in my opinion. If you could do this, and don't get me wrong, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of effort. This isn't an easy task. But you take what you have now, whatever you have, whether it's TFSA, RRSP, IRA in the US, I don't know, something you're not using around your house, some of your silver, some of your gold, maybe your baseball card collection. And you do that as fast as you can now, because it's going to get harder and harder. You can imagine what this would look like if the price was double, how many years it would take you. Let's go 288. If the price just doubled, which is very possible in this year here, that's all of a sudden 50 years. So if you think about it like this, it just seems so much more achievable to get to 1 Bitcoin. In addition to a perfectly structured wallet, in my opinion. And then from there, you'll keep stacking. So then you'll get to 900,000, 800,000. And by the end of this, you're going to be so equipped for the future. Your family's going to be so equipped for the future. But I just think that this is a really good way to look at it. Because I was trying to figure out, like, what would the tiers be in order to get to 1 Bitcoin if you started at the top and started going down. And I was blown away. I thought it was going to be like 20 million the first one. But it was only 14 million. The first UTXO there is only 14 million. And if you just keep going downwards, you're going to get to 1 Bitcoin from 14 million sats. So that's I thought that was worth sharing. I think it's a really unique way to look at it and think about it. And to me, it just seems so much more achievable when you look at it that way. My Path to Fire says, yeah, spending 4x that on food. I know. Daniel says it's a great process to begin. I sold a bunch of stuff and converted to Bitcoin in the fall, early winter. I think of putting that stuff into cold storage. If I need it again, I can buy it with the Bitcoin I bought. Yes. And My Path to Fire says, great strategy. Lapad says, that's really good. I love it. And Plunder says, I love the strategy. Yeah. I mean, it's just a different way to look at it and think about things. It just seems much more achievable that way. Like, again, most people probably have the hard part already over with in terms of 14 million sats. So your next one, you're probably building up. Maybe you already have the 13. And then it's just going to get easier and easier. Even though the price is going up, it's just going to get easier and easier to get for you. But the main thing to focus on here is take whatever you have now, convert it to Bitcoin, and you're going to get so much further ahead with that strategy than trying to do it over the next 20 years, because Bitcoin is just going to keep going up and up and up and further out of reach for people. So if you think about like the average person and how hard that would be for them to save 21 years, no, it was 25 years actually, at these current rates, if the price stayed this way forever. So if you think about how hard that's going to be, just understand what you're holding here and the importance of gaining the conviction so you don't buy or sell, panic, and also the investment in your security to make sure that whatever you have, whatever time, energy, and existing capital you put into Bitcoin is going to be there for the rest of your life and your generations to come. But it just start doing it, and the faster you can do it, the faster you can convert those assets into Bitcoin, the further ahead you're going to be in this reverse pyramid here. You will be elite at one full Bitcoin. Oh, 100%. Like it, honestly, that's kind of where I was going with that. Is like, if you think about the average person and how hard it is for people to obtain that, who else is going to be able to do it? Millionaires? They're kind of already priced out. There's 63 million millionaires in the world. There's 21 million Bitcoin. Billionaires, yes. Any day a billionaire could get to one Bitcoin, any day. So billionaires, but that's like a very, 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 very small percentage of the population. But everyone else, it's up for grabs. You just got to be able to you got to be willing to put in the time, effort, and the sacrifice to get there.